I'm a little bit injured right now, so we're going to be slowing things down and taking things easy today. And I'm going to give you some beginner tips, 4 simple rules to follow. And if you implement these rules into your riding, then no doubt you'll become a better snowboarder. The first 2 rules are going to be focused on the inputs, the things that you can change, such as your body position on top of the board. And that's going to help put you in a stronger position and give you more control over your snowboard. And once you implement those 2 things, those 2 rules, then you're going to find it easier to follow the final 2 rules. And those focus on the outcome. That means what your board is actually doing. So this video is going to be aimed at riders who are already linking turns, but perhaps you're a little bit wobbly, sometimes out of control, or maybe you're struggling to progress onto more challenging terrain. If you're yet to make your edge changes and link turns, then check out my complete beginner walkthrough that I'm going to link down below. But now let's get on to that first rule, which is going to be to stack your hips vertically over your edge. Doing this will make sure you can easily balance on your edge, and it ensures that your body weight is stacked vertically over your edge, thus giving you grip underfoot. When you're on the heel edge, you have a soft bend in your knees with your hips pulled back behind the board. As you start riding harder and faster, yes, you can drop down lower, but for most groomed slopes, and if you're riding at a slower pace, you don't need to over-exaggerate this movement. Just do what's needed. For the toe side, it shouldn't feel like you're thrusting your hips forward, but at the same time, we don't want them to creep back over the board. And this is the most common beginner mistake on the toe side. Done a little, it leads to a lack of grip, as you can see here, but do it more, it's going to lead to catching an edge, which I'm not about to demo for you, I'm afraid. So, soften your ankles, breathe out, and flex down so your shins press into the front of your boots. Do all of this and you should be able to achieve this, a clean traverse across the slope without skidding. If you can get that pencil thin line, awesome, but don't beat yourself up if there's a bit of skid. So long as you are clearly cutting across the slope, then you're on the right track. Stacking your hips over your edge gets your weight in the right place and allows you to just rest against your equipment. Shins in the front of the boots for the toe edge and leaning against the high backs of your bindings for the heel edge. Therefore, none of this should be fatiguing and your muscles shouldn't be tensed up and firing. Start with correct posture and you won't need to work hard to achieve grip.
Now, before I get some comments from some of the extreme carvers out there, remember that this position is just a starting point and it's going to serve you very well and allow you to ride all terrain and all conditions. Sure, as you start to develop greater board control and ride more aggressively, you can get yourself into stronger positions, but for now, it is going to serve you very well. So with that, let's get on to rule number 2.
And this is all about getting yourself properly centered over the board and having your weight correctly stacked over both feet at any point in the turn. Now, you may have heard things like put 70% of weight on your front foot or lean over the nose of the board. And that advice exists because one of the most common beginner mistakes is to lean back when the board starts pointing down the slope, and then you end up out of control, not able to steer the board through the turn. So yes, we want to keep weight over that front foot, but trying to put numbers on it and quantify exactly how much weight is going through each foot is incredibly difficult. Therefore, I just find it easier to follow this rule, which if you do, will stack your weight exactly where you need it to be.
You keep your spine perpendicular to the board at all times, and you keep your shoulder line parallel to the board at all times. This will allow you to maintain what is commonly referred to as a stacked position. This is where your body joints are stacked vertically above each other, and this will help you balance and effectively steer the board. Going across the slope, easy, as both feet are at the same level, so it's just like how you would stand on the flat. But when the board turns and points down the slope, then you need to match the angle of the slope. Spine stays perpendicular to the board and shoulders stay parallel.
Now, I'm not a fan of full-blown airplane arms when you're riding, but if you just put your hands out a little and hold your front hand over the nose of the board and your back hand over the tail and maintain that same distance between your hands and the nose and tail of the board whilst you're riding, it should help you achieve this.
Notice how my body position doesn't really change. All that happens is that as the board points down the slope, my body goes with it and I match the angle of the slope. My hips move across the top of the snowboard at each edge change, which I'm going to talk about in the final rule. But besides that, I pretty much just hold a position. Go with the slope, do that, and then you should find it easy to get the board gripping and pulling you through the turn, making it simple for you to follow this next rule, which we'll come to right after this.
I just want to take a moment to quickly talk about the goggles that I'm wearing in today's video, the Outdoor Master Ultras. They feature a high quality Zeiss lens that brings greater clarity and more definition to the snow. These goggles come with a spare low light lens that can easily be swapped over thanks to the 10 magnets that secure them in place. They've got a great anti-fog coating that stops any moisture condensing on the inside, and combine that all with the wide field of view that you get from the toric lens, which is basically a curved shape that combines the advantages of both cylindrical and spherical shapes, then you have a great high-end goggle solution. Outdoor Master are a sponsor of this channel, and it's thanks to their supports that I'm able to keep dedicating time to putting out snowboarding content like this. You can use my code in the video description down below for a reduction on these or any other products from their range. Now, back to the video. Finish your turns, and this just means that you turn the board fully across the slope on each edge.
And I not only want you to do that, but I want you to make sure that the board is gripping and traversing across the slope just like you did earlier in the first drill for rule 1. Because in this turn, the board is across the slope, but it's skidding. I want you to have it across the slope and gripping like this. This is what I mean by finishing the turn.
By following all of the rules that we implemented earlier, this should be a doddle. But first, a quick talk about ice. Now, I know that icy is a scale that varies greatly. Some people moan of anything less than a perfect piece as icy, but I also understand that in some places, icy slopes really are a problem. My point being is that if you really can't get the board gripping at all, and if when you look around you see skiers sliding all over the place as well, then it probably isn't the conditions for practicing perfect turns. Sometimes skidding is a necessity, so don't beat yourself up if it's just a case that conditions suck. But if you can get some grip, then let's get on to that final rule. Always make an early edge change. Oof.
An early edge change is where you change edge and start your new turn all before the board is pointing down the slope. You need to finish your turns in order to be able to do this, so make sure you've got that dialed in. And once you do, then this really shouldn't be too hard. You need a little bit of speed, and then we're looking for that edge change to happen as you are going across the slope. And all the edge change needs to be is a crossing of your hips over the board to bring you from your toe edge to heel edge position and vice versa. You can lead in with your front knee and hip to help steer you into the turn, but all that really needs to happen is to make sure you pass your center of mass over the board. And once again, I go over the technique for the actual edge change in my beginner walkthrough video that is linked down below. But now, just by finishing your turns and going for this edge change across the slope, you've set yourself up for your turns to become way easier. You'll be starting to develop much more of an S shape to your turns, which will allow you to control your speed with your turn shape rather than by skidding. And you'll be starting to engage the side cut of your board in what should be a really rewarding feeling that also really begins to take some of the hard work out of snowboarding. So follow these rules. Stack your hips over your edge, stack your joints over each other, match the angle of the slope, finish your turns, get the board gripping and going across the slope, which then sets you up for this, an early edge change. Boom, rinse and repeat. Go get it.
Thank you for watching, and I hope that by following these rules, you're going to start to improve your turns. And as you gain more control, you're going to start having more fun on your board. And that is the main thing. Don't let these technical videos take that away. That is why we're all here, out there on the mountains. Snowboarding is super fun, and as long as you're enjoying yourself, then that is the main thing. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.